everyone. We're live in Abuja, and I'm Namdi Odipo. In the last couple of days, in fact, since last week, we are focused on the incoming 10th National Assembly. Aside the fact that the legislature is going to play a key role in complementing national development efforts, the ongoing tussle, or should I say lobbying for positions or leadership positions for the 10th National Assembly has made it quite an interesting conversation for media practitioners and, of course, for the NTA as well. Of course, we've channeled the bulk of our conversation with senator-elects and members-elect on their plans and how they intend to hit the ground running. Well, this is another episode of The Mandate, and once again, welcome. One of the many upsets of the 2023 general elections occurred in Edo South Senatorial District election in Edo State, of course, where the Labour Party candidate was declared winner and returned as senator-elect for Edo South. Well, the elections are passed, and the mandate is already looking forward, and our delight to have the senator-elect Barrister Neda Emerson join me tonight here in our studios. Welcome to our live studios for the mandate, and congratulations on your win, Barrister.
Thank you so very much, and thank you for having me.
Great. It is standard electioneering practice for prospective public office holders to give their voters manifestos, basically a plan of what they intend to do and how they intend to do all of that. In your campaign, I noticed you promised quality representation, and then you vowed never to take your constituents for granted. How do you intend to keep that promise?
Well, again, thank you for having me this evening. To my constituents, I will again seize this opportunity to thank you all for the mandate that you have given to me to represent you at the Red Chambers. Like I said before, I will never take this for granted. And I will always remember that, but for your interest and for voting for me, I will not be here. I will not be elected. And so I will compensate that by representing you in a very good way. I talk about quality representation. Mm-hmm. What I mean by quality representation is the representation that actually speaks to the needs of the constituents. And what are these needs? These needs are not lost on everyone. We all know what the needs are. Today we talk about insecurity in our land. Today we talk about hunger on our land. Today we talk about unemployment amongst our youths. Today we talk about issues that concerns the average person, poverty. People are hungry. People go to bed hungry these days without having meals on their tables. Education is another issue that we have to take very seriously. Healthcare, we seem to have forgotten what we went through during the COVID-19 situation, where it became very clear that healthcare systems have all fallen apart for real. And we seem to have gone back to normal life as if everything is normal again, and nothing is normal. And so we have to look at these situations and look for how we can address them so that we can at least be prepared for any emergency as the last COVID episode presented to us.
If I'm not mistaken, it is your belief that legislations would help tackle most, if not all, of these issues that you've enumerated: education, health, insecurity, unemployment. Is that exactly what you're saying?
Legislation will go a long way to do them. If you look at insecurity, for instance, I still believe that the states should have their own police.
Okay.
It is my belief that if a state has its own police, then it can effectively police its borders. Every state knows where the issues lie. within their boundaries as it relates to insecurity, and to begin to bring somebody from somewhere else that would take another 2-3 years to learn what is happening within that borders, a lot of bad things would have occurred. So I believe that the state should be able to have its own police without having to defer to Abuja for directions when emergency is taking place right there and then. So legislation can take care of that, yes.
So state police definitely is something you would like to see on the table.
Yes.
I mean, that's clear from what you've just said.
That's very correct.
What other issue would you like to see on the table? And I would like for you to draw from one of the examples or the sectors you've enumerated, since we've talked about insecurity and you raised the issue of state policing.
I also spoke about health.
Yes.
I also spoke about health. Health situation, like I said before, during the COVID situation, we realized that our health situation was actually not good at all. We were not prepared. We were all taken aback by surprise on how not functional our hospitals are, and they still are not functional. Day by day, you see Nigerians, doctors and nurses living in droves to greener pastures or to other parts of the world where they believe they can effectively hone their skills because the environment here is not good for them. You have doctors who don't have the equipment to work with, not even medications that they can dispense to their patients. They have just become doctors who just write prescriptions, and that's where it begins and that's where it ends. And it's not satisfactory to any doctor. If you were a doctor, consider that happening to you, I'm not sure you'll be happy too. And so to have a situation where the government or the government for real is not actually looking at this sector critically by looking at the budgets and seriously giving huge amount of money of the budgets to healthcare, it just then means that they are not serious about it. And so it's a situation that is something that the 10th Senate, I believe, will have to critically look into to make sure that, because this is another thing that affects every person. Having good hospitals and clinics and all that will benefit the poor, the rich, and the in-between.
True. You know, I mean, I'm sure your constituents watching right now, listening to you, would be glad and delighted to see how consistent you are on some of these agenda that you campaigned with and that you tend to carry into the 10th National Assembly, especially considering that you're going to be a newcomer at the Senate, as in when it's promulgated in June. But I wonder if you would ever or possibly align with those concerned about the quality of the incoming 10th National Assembly, owing to the fact that a good number of newbies would be occupying both chambers. I mean, there are concerns that the incoming legislature has recorded the highest number of turnover of experienced lawmakers ever. We hear that more than half the 469 seats of both chambers are going to be went to first-time lawmakers. Are you not worried, or are you worried that the lack of legislative experience on the part of newbies may slow progress at the National Assembly? Use yourself as an example and tell us, in terms of experience, what do you have to offer?
Well, I'll answer this question this way. First of all, if most of the senators are not returning, there must be a reason why they are not returning. Perhaps their constituents are not satisfied with their performances. And if for that reason, then new persons or new senators are now being elected to replace them, it's a good thing, because consider a journey where you go around in a circle and you expect something different, but you are still in the same circle. Nothing is going to be different. But you may need to veer off that circle. Perhaps you will see something different. And so this 10th Senate, for me, is a Senate of ideas. Okay. People who are very energetic, people who are also coming from different backgrounds. Having a legislative experience is good, yes, and that's why we still have almost half of them coming back. But you also need to inject new blood, new ideas into that block. Because if it's going to be business as usual, then nothing's really going to...
Is that what you're bringing in? New blood, new ideas?
Of course, new ideas,
Fresh
new
perspective?
energy, fresh perspective to the table, to ginger up everything, to make sure that everything takes a different direction. Because the direction we are taking now, we need to retrace our steps. If we continue in this direction, I believe we'll end up in abyss. And so having new senators and new legislators coming into the National Assembly, for me, is a very good thing.
Now, let me pick up on, or pick a bit of your fresh perspective or new idea. Saying your blood is pumping now, you know. Let me see if I can just do some expo and steal a bit before you go and give it to the National Assembly. And I'd like your take on, I mean, this quite worrying trend, the tribalism and ethnicity in the polity, and I'm sure, I mean, you know what I'm talking about. I haven't seen how it played out, or it's still playing out. Do you think the 10th Senate or 10th National Assembly has an opportunity now to tackle the issue of identity politics and perhaps engender a united Nigeria by further legislations or perhaps oversight or implementation of existing laws and conventions meant to unite us as a people?
Well, we need to heal.
True.
The Nigerians, we need to heal. And I believe it's going to take the collective will of each and every one of us to heal so that we can move this country forward. For those of us that have been elected to the National Assembly, the friendship, the camaraderie that is I see happening, because we have been attending meetings, we've been meeting in small groups, in larger groups, and we've been exchanging ideas. And for what I have seen is that everybody seems to agree on one thing, that this country is bleeding and we need to stop the bleeding. And so we need to come together as a country, as Nigerians, united, to be able to have one voice to move this country forward. So I believe that we will be able to sidestep the issues of tribalism, religious differences and the like, so that we can move forward, which is the reason why I said before that this new set of legislators that I have interacted with since being in Abuja for a few weeks now are very energetic. They are different. The ideas, what they believe, that the new Nigeria, the possibility of a new Nigeria is what everybody talks about. And we will still believe that a new Nigeria is possible. And this new Nigeria is a Nigeria that is detribalized, a Nigeria that do not have religious baggage on their shoulders. Is the kind of Nigeria we're talking about. And I can tell you that this 10th Assembly will be a different assembly.
You know, you just inferred that you have been in Abuja for some time now, meeting whether in small groups or in larger groups with senator-elects and, of course, returning members. And I'm curious to know, and you know, and I want us to talk about these whole, is it a tussle now or lobbying for leadership positions in the Senate? But you know what? Is there any prospect of using the Senate presidency at this point or at points like this as a good opportunity to balance the power equation and perhaps give a sense of belonging to certain segments of the country that feel left out, maybe, or is that just a decision for the ruling party, which, by the way, has majority in both chambers of the National Assembly? I see the lobbying, or we see the lobbying and negotiations all taking place. I know it's something you have been monitoring, even though your party, Labour Party, just has about 6 or 7 members, eight members
yes.
at the Senate.
Yes.
But of course, you will be part of the equation as well. What are the prospects? What are you seeing play out? And what's your interpretation of all that has been happening in terms of negotiations on the zoning of National Assembly leadership positions?
Well, I don't think that what is happening in this regard is different from what happens in any parliament anywhere in the world. The leadership of the Senate or the House of Representatives is always something that is sometimes become very contentious. But it's the convention. It's not the rule. It's not the law. But it's the convention that the ruling party tend to have its way as to who becomes the Senate President or the House of Representative Speaker. I don't see it being different now, but it's dangerously close in the sense that there's no absolute majority. And so what the different opposition parties do by way of coming together can actually affect that convention of having the ruling party select who becomes the Senate President or House of Rep Speaker. But for what I've been in the meetings I've been attending, people that speak to us that want to be Senate Presidents are very serious about healing the country. That's the first thing they talk about. They talk about how we can come together to lead that healing process so that the country can move forward. And that gladdens my heart, because it just then means that we are serious about moving this country forward. But I'll tell you also that Labour Party, yes, we are 8, but we are collective 8, we are united 8, and we are very important. Where we put our votes, we can tilt the balance.
Every member of the Senate
can tilt that balance.
Every member of the Senate is important.
So nobody should take us for granted.
No,
that's what I'm trying to say.
Nobody's taking you for granted. Let's redirect this conversation back to the issue of setting a template, a legislative agenda for the 10th National Assembly. Perhaps we could, I don't know, would you be favorable to supporting or, further electoral amendment to consolidate on the gains already being made? I mean, should further electoral reforms be a key priority for the 10th National Assembly?
Of course. That tallies with what I said about state police.
Electoral reforms is not state police.
Oh, you mean electoral reform?
Yes.
I thought the constitutional reforms.
No,
we're electoral reforms. Yeah, we need to actually look into that very seriously. If you look at what happened in this past election and the issue of transmission and not transmission, the issue of uploading and not uploading, it's something that we need to really look into and see why that happened, where is a human error, whether it's electronic error, whatever error it is, that we need to correct. Because having a very good election where people's votes count and where people who are elected are actually elected and not the other way around will help us to actually move this country to a better direction. Because the people you elect determines a whole lot of things as to the direction of the country. And so the process of election actually sieve between those who should be there and those who shouldn't be there. And it should also be a situation where the people who vote have those they vote for elected and not the other way around. And so electoral reform is very important. We need to look at it very critically again. And you look at the issue of electoral violence. Yeah. Electoral violence seems to be very prevalent. And in each constituency, those who perpetrate this violence, people know them. Police are there, they see them. There's no arrest. And it goes on and on and on. So what happens is that it emboldens these individuals to do this stuff, election in, election out. Because there is no, nobody arrests them, nobody punishes them for the ills that they commit. And so they just go on and on and on. So if electoral reform should be able to look at this situation very well and see how we can actually have these people that create havoc during an election period arrested and prosecuted for the offense that they commit. Okay.
The Electoral Offenders Commission is in the works. We'll see how that turns out. You seem keen to talk about constitutional or other constitutional reforms. Of course, you referenced the state police. You know, would you want to see other constitutional reform issues on the table or the legislative agenda for the incoming legislature as well? There is, and if you want examples, I can reel out a couple of them, but we're fast losing time. But of course, there's the subject of the true nature of our federalism. There's the issue of conclusively, handling or tackling the issue of local government autonomy. There are a whole lot of the issues. Which of them do you think should be given key priority and conclusively dealt with by the 10th National Assembly? Well,
we are a democracy. We are also talking about a federation. Are we truly a federation? That's a question. Every state ought to have some autonomy. We need a situation where states will be able to control its resources, control its security, controls even the health, the hospitals, railroads, roads. You call this in federal roads, and you wait for the federal government to send money to do federal roads. Oftentimes they are not done. Leave these things to the states to do. You know, so the state ought to have its own autonomy. We need that. We don't need this big federal government brother or father that tells every state what they need to give them what they need. No, let the state determine what they need and address what they need. Let the state control its resources. Pay your tax to the federal government and use the rest to run your state as the state citizens deem fit.
My director is raising the flag already for me and telling me to round off. That we're completely out of time. But of course, I mean, it's quite unfortunate, but we'll try to create another platform and bring you on so we can talk about several other issues that we're yet to talk about. I'd like to thank you so much, Senator-elect, for Edo South. Congratulations, by the way, once again for your elections. We would be monitoring to see how vocal and vibrant you are on the floor of the Senate. I mean, this is a promise. We will be monitoring to see exactly how you represent, or rather the quality of representation you give to your constituents in Edo South. Thank you so much, Barrister Neda Emerson, for coming on the mandate tonight. It's a delight having you here.
Thank you. I appreciate this. And good evening, viewers.
And that's it for tonight. Tomorrow is another day, another opportunity to hear firsthand from a set of guests how they intend to achieve set national development objectives. Remember, the mandate is on Wednesdays at 10:30 p.m. Do join us for another insightful edition. My name is Nnamdi Odipo. Good night and see you again tomorrow.